Every year, millions of people spend thousands of dollars to visit places they've seen in travel ads, magazines, and social media. They book the flights, pack the bags, and count down the days. Then they arrive and realize they've been sold a lie. These are 20 places tourists regret visiting. 20. Hollywood Walk of Fame, Los Angeles, USA. The Hollywood Walk of Fame is one of the most recognized landmarks in the world. Over 2,800 stars are embedded into the sidewalks of Hollywood Boulevard, each one honoring a name from film, TV, music, or radio. For decades, it's been sold as the ultimate piece of American celebrity culture. Millions of people fly to Los Angeles every year just to see it. The reality is something very different. A 2025 global study by travel company Stasher analyzed 100 of the world's most famous attractions and ranked the Hollywood Walk of Fame dead last, scoring just 2.67 out of 10. Visitors consistently describe the area as rundown, dirty, and chaotic. Aggressive street performers approach tourists constantly. Panhandlers line the boulevard, and the surrounding streets feel nothing like the glamorous Hollywood seen in movies. The stars themselves are often cracked, faded, or covered in gum. There are no rides, no exhibits, no experiences, just names on a sidewalk surrounded by overpriced souvenir shops. One reviewer summed it up simply: the image is one of stardom and glitz. The reality is your average city street with a gift shop on every corner. Millions of people make the trip. Most leave wondering why they bothered. 19. Cancun, Mexico. Cancun is one of the most visited places on the planet. In 2024, more than 9.7 million international tourists landed there, making it the busiest airport destination in Mexico. The ads show crystal blue water, white sand, and luxury resorts. What they don't show is what's waiting for you when you leave the airport. The U.S. Department of State has issued a Level 2 travel advisory for the state of Quintana Roo, which includes Cancun, warning travelers to exercise increased caution due to rising crime. In the summer of 2024, a 12-year-old boy was killed by a stray bullet on a Cancun beach when gunmen on jet skis opened fire on a rival gang member near a hotel. Government data from early 2024 shows robbery accounted for nearly 27% of all reported crimes in the area. Scams are constant, from restaurants adding hidden fees to beach clubs overcharging to fake taxi drivers taking tourists to commission-paying shops instead of their destinations. Then there's the sargassum. Every year, massive mats of brown seaweed wash up on Cancun's beaches, rotting in the heat and releasing hydrogen sulfide gas, a smell compared to rotten eggs. In 2025, authorities estimated they would collect over 16,500 tons of the seaweed, a massive jump from 3,000 tons the year before. Tourists who spent thousands on a beach vacation have found themselves sitting next to decomposing seaweed on a beach that looks nothing like the photos. A 2025 survey found that 40% of visitors left Cancun more disappointed than delighted. 18. Pyramids of Giza, Egypt. The Pyramids of Giza are the last remaining wonder of the ancient world. They've stood for over 4,500 years, and nothing compares to their scale and history. But in 2024, Egypt had a serious problem on its hands. The site recorded 15.7 million visitors that year, and for most of them, the experience was not what they expected. From the moment tourists arrive, they are targeted. Unofficial guides approach visitors before they even reach the ticket booth. Men posing as staff claim certain areas require a special ticket. Vendors physically block paths to force interactions. The most notorious scam is the camel ride. Tourists agree to a price, climb up, and are then told the price was per minute, or that they have to pay extra to get down. Egypt was ranked the #1 destination in the world for tourist scams in 2025, according to multiple travel watchdog reports. The Egyptian government acknowledged the problem and launched a $51 million initiative to reorganize the site, relocate vendors, and introduce electric buses. But enforcement has been slow and resistance from local vendors has caused delays. What was supposed to be one of the great moments of a lifetime often turns into an exhausting fight to simply stand still and look at ancient stones. Travelers describe leaving angry, drained, and overcharged. The pyramids themselves are everything you'd hope for. Getting to actually enjoy them, that's another story entirely. 17. Eiffel Tower, Paris, France. Paris is the most visited city in the world, and the Eiffel Tower is its most iconic symbol. Around 7 million people visit it every year. But it also holds another title, the single worst spot in all of France for pickpockets, and one of the most dangerous for tourist theft in all of Europe. A study by insurance company Quotizone found that France ranks second in Europe for pickpocketing incidents, with 251 mentions per million visitors. The Eiffel Tower is identified as the worst location in the entire country. The U.S. Embassy in France has published a formal travel advisory warning tourists about organized pickpocket gangs that operate specifically at the tower. In one recent year, Paris police arrested 19 people identified as ringleaders of a major pickpocket network, which investigators said was responsible for about 2/3 of all metro and tower thefts and had netted over 1.3 million euros. The gangs recruited young women from Eastern Europe and set daily theft targets of between 300 and 1,000 euros each. Beyond the theft risk, most visitors describe the experience as underwhelming once they get past the photo opportunity. The surrounding area is packed with unlicensed street sellers, aggressive petition scammers, and overpriced food stalls. Lines can stretch for hours. A 2024 survey found that almost 1 in 3 visitors left disappointed. Paris itself is a spectacular city, but the Eiffel Tower experience has become something to survive, not enjoy. 16. Las Ramblas, Barcelona, Spain. Las Ramblas is one of the most famous streets in Europe, a 1.2-kilometer pedestrian boulevard running through the heart of Barcelona, lined with cafes, market stalls, and street performers. It's also the second worst tourist trap in the entire world, according to Nomad's 2025 global study, which counted 826 TripAdvisor reviews using the phrase tourist trap for the street alone. The pickpocketing problem here is severe. In 2023, pickpocketing accounted for 48.1% of all crimes committed in Barcelona, nearly half of all crime in the entire city. Over 100,000 pickpocketing incidents were recorded in the city that year. Pickpocketing in Barcelona in 2024 was reported to be 25% higher than in cities like Amsterdam or Paris. Las Ramblas is ground zero. The combination of slow-moving tourists, distracting street performers, and dense crowds creates perfect conditions for professional theft crews. A legal loophole that keeps thefts under 400 euros largely unpunished has made the problem worse. The food along Las Ramblas is another source of regret. Restaurants cater almost entirely to tourists and charge prices 200 to 300% higher than what locals pay. The souvenirs are mass-produced and overpriced. Many Barcelona locals avoid the street entirely, considering it a poor reflection of their actual city. Travelers who spend their time on Las Ramblas often leave having seen none of the real Barcelona, and some leave with less money than they arrived with and no idea when it happened. 15. Times Square, New York, USA. Times Square gets 131 million visitors every year. Around 220,000 people walk through it daily, with that number climbing to 330,000 on peak days. It is one of the most photographed places on Earth. It is also, according to a 2024 Pre-Ply survey of 81 iconic global locations, the most overrated tourist attraction in the world. The sensory overload is the first thing that hits people. Massive digital billboards blaze 24 hours a day. Performers in full character costumes approach tourists aggressively and demand money for photos. Chain restaurants with inflated prices line every block. A chicken tender plate at the Times Square Applebee's can cost more than $20. The same meal costs $15 in other parts of the city. The crowds make it nearly impossible to move freely, and the atmosphere, described by countless reviewers as chaotic and exhausting, bears no resemblance to the electric energy people expect. New Yorkers themselves avoid it almost entirely. Pickpocketing is also a growing problem. The NYPD recorded 2,200 pickpocket victims in Times Square in 2023, up from just under 2,000 the previous year. Police noted an increase in organized crews, coordinated groups of 5 or 6 people who work together to create distractions while others steal. One TripAdvisor reviewer summed it up in 7 words: massively overcrowded for what is basically neon lights. The lights are real. The magic? Most people agree it is not. 14. Leaning Tower of Pisa, Italy. The Leaning Tower of Pisa is one of the most recognized structures in the world, and one of the most visited, drawing more than 5 million tourists to the small city of Pisa each year. Most of them stay for less than an hour. Many wish they hadn't bothered making the trip at all. The tower itself stands 56 meters tall, smaller than most visitors expect. It leans at roughly 4 degrees, a tilt that is visible but far less dramatic in person than it appears in photos. The climb to the top costs €25 per person and is capped at 30 minutes. You share those 30 minutes on narrow, steep steps with a timed group of strangers. The surrounding area is packed with souvenir vendors selling the same plastic replicas at inflated prices. The restaurants nearby cater exclusively to tourists, with prices well above what you'd pay anywhere else in Tuscany. Reviewers consistently describe the commercial atmosphere as suffocating. The broader problem is that Pisa has little else to offer once the tower is checked off. Most travel writers recommend treating it as a half-day stop at most, on the way between Florence and the coast. Yet millions of tourists each year build trips around it as though it's a destination in itself. One Reddit user described it as an overrated stack of stone tilting at a slight angle. That's perhaps harsh, but it captures what a large number of visitors actually feel when they finally stand in front of it. 13. Santorini, Greece. Santorini is one of the most photographed places on Earth. The whitewashed houses, blue-domed churches, and cliffside sunsets have made it the defining image of Greek island life. The problem is that the photos that sold the world on Santorini bear almost no resemblance to the experience of actually visiting it. The island has a permanent population of around 15,500 people. In 2023, it received approximately 3.4 million tourists, more than double the count from 10 years prior. At peak times, up to 17,000 cruise ship passengers flood the narrow streets of Fira and Oia in a single day. The mayor of Santorini has repeatedly called the situation a crisis, describing the island as having already reached its saturation point before the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2024, a councillor posted to social media urging local residents to stay indoors to make room for a wave of incoming cruise passengers. The post went viral internationally and triggered widespread outrage. Greece responded by introducing a €20 levy on cruise ship passengers visiting the island during high season in 2025. The prices reflect the demand. Accommodation, food, and transport costs on Santorini are among the highest in the Mediterranean. The famous sunset view from Oia involves shoulder-to-shoulder crowds of tourists jostling for the same photograph. Travel bloggers admitted that the clean, romantic photos circulating online are largely photoshopped. Real photos taken on location include dozens of strangers in the background. Tourists who expected a quiet, romantic escape find one of the most overwhelmed and congested destinations in Europe. 12. Venice, Italy. Venice is one of the most unique cities ever built. 118 small islands connected by over 400 bridges and 150 canals. It has no roads and no cars. For centuries, it was considered one of the great wonders of the world. Today, it is in danger of being destroyed by the very tourism that funds it. Over 20 million tourists visit Venice each year in a city with a permanent population of around 50,000, and that population has been shrinking for decades as residents are priced out of their own neighborhoods. The city introduced a day tripper fee of €5 in 2024 for visitors arriving on peak days without staying overnight. UNESCO has repeatedly warned that Venice risks being added to its list of World Heritage Sites in danger due to mass tourism, environmental damage from cruise ships, and the erosion of local life. Cruise ships have been banned from the historic city center as a result of the damage they caused. The canals, in warm months, carry a distinct smell: stagnant water, algae, and city drainage that many visitors describe as unpleasant and pervasive. Beyond the practical problems, many tourists find the experience hollow. The narrow streets are so packed in high season that movement becomes slow and frustrating. Most shops and restaurants target tourists with inflated prices and mediocre food. A popular review on Reddit described Venice as stinky, dirty, and expensive, with nothing left to fill 3 days once the gondola ride and a walk across the Rialto Bridge are done. The city beneath the tourism infrastructure is remarkable, but what most visitors actually experience is a crowded, expensive stage set. 11. Niagara Falls, Canada. Niagara Falls sits on the border between Canada and the United States and draws around 12 to 14 million visitors annually. The falls themselves are genuinely powerful, 3 separate waterfalls dropping over 50 meters, with the Horseshoe Falls alone moving around 168,000 cubic meters of water per minute. Nobody disputes that the falls are impressive. What surrounds them is a different matter entirely. The Canadian side of Niagara Falls town has been described by countless visitors as a carnival gone wrong. Wax museums, haunted houses, and Ripley's Believe It or Not stands line the streets leading to the falls. Chain restaurants charge 2 to 3 times normal prices. The entire commercial strip feels like a theme park with no actual theme other than extracting money from people who came to see water. Nomad's 2025 global study counted 483 TripAdvisor reviews labeling Niagara Falls a tourist trap, making it the 6th worst-rated major attraction in the world. The US side is generally considered even more disappointing: a single observation deck with a limited view, surrounded by very little else. The falls themselves are best seen from a boat tour or the mist walk, which get visitors close enough to feel the power of the water. But reaching those experiences requires navigating the commercial maze surrounding them, and prices for basic activities add up quickly. Families who arrive expecting natural wonder often leave feeling they spent the day in a shopping mall that happened to have a waterfall at the end of it. The falls are real. Everything built around them is the problem. 10. Marrakesh, Morocco. Morocco appears on more travel bucket lists every year. The ancient Medina of Marrakech, with its winding souks, spice markets, and riad hotels, has become one of the most aspirational destinations in the world. It is also, according to experienced multi-country travelers, the most hostile environment they have encountered as a tourist. The only destination where visitors reported being screamed and shouted at for resisting a scam. The souks of the Medina are deliberately designed to disorient. Narrow alleys with no clear exits lead visitors deeper into the market, where pressure to buy is intense and persistent. Guides, many unofficial, approach tourists constantly, often becoming aggressive if their offers are declined. Fake guide scams are common. Someone offers to help you find your destination, then presents a bill at the end. Henna artists in Jemaa El Fna Square apply henna without clear agreement on price, then demand large sums before releasing your hand. In 2025, reports of petty theft in the Medina increased, and many travelers noted it felt difficult to simply walk without being followed or harassed. The chaos is also disorienting in a way that goes beyond excitement. Many visitors describe the sensory overload as overwhelming rather than immersive, and find the constant pressure exhausting. Seasoned travelers now recommend bypassing Marrakesh in favor of smaller Moroccan towns like Chefchaouen or Essaouira, where the same culture exists without the hostility. The architecture and history of Marrakech are extraordinary. The experience of being a tourist there has, for many, become genuinely unpleasant. 9. Temple Bar, Dublin, Ireland. Temple Bar is Dublin's most famous tourist district. a collection of cobblestoned streets and colorful pubs that has come to represent Irish nightlife and culture to millions of visitors from around the world. It is also the third worst tourist trap on the planet, according to Nomad's 2025 global study, with 687 TripAdvisor reviews using those exact words. The promise of Temple Bar is an authentic Irish pub experience. The reality is something very different. Prices in the area are among the highest in the country. A pint of Guinness that costs around €5 in a local Dublin pub can run to €8 or more inside Temple Bar. The pubs themselves are packed with tourists rather than locals, creating an atmosphere that many visitors describe as manufactured. Irish culture designed for export rather than experienced authentically. Stag and bachelorette parties crowd the streets at weekends, adding a level of noise and chaos that many visitors find genuinely unpleasant. Multiple reviewers have described the area as overcrowded, overpriced, and completely overrated. Locals in Dublin have largely abandoned Temple Bar to tourists. Authentic Irish pubs, traditional music sessions, and real community atmospheres can be found throughout the rest of the city, often within walking distance, at a fraction of the price. Many tourists spend their entire Dublin visit in Temple Bar and leave believing they've experienced Irish culture, when they've actually experienced a theme park version of it built specifically to take their money. It still draws millions every year. Most of them deserve better. 8. Checkpoint Charlie, Berlin, Germany. Checkpoint Charlie was once one of the most significant sites of the Cold War, the crossing point between East and West Berlin where American and Soviet tanks faced each other in 1961. For anyone interested in modern history, it should be a powerful place. What stands there today is almost insulting to that history. The original guardhouse was removed in 1990. What visitors find now is a replica booth with actors dressed in costumes styled after U.S. military uniforms, charging tourists for photos. Souvenir stalls selling fake military paraphernalia, Soviet medals, and Berlin Wall fragments of questionable authenticity surround the site. The entire experience lasts about 10 minutes. There is simply nothing there beyond the backdrop. Nomad's 2025 global study found 681 TripAdvisor reviews calling Checkpoint Charlie a tourist trap, making it the fourth worst-rated major attraction in the world. Many visitors describe it as the single most disappointing stop of their entire European trip. The actual history of the location is fascinating. The stories of people who crossed, attempted to cross, or died trying to cross the Berlin Wall are extraordinary, but none of that history is accessible at the site itself without a separate museum ticket. The Checkpoint Charlie Museum nearby does a better job of telling the story, but many visitors don't realize it exists until they've already left, disappointed by what they assumed was the main attraction. Berlin is full of genuinely moving Cold War history. This is not where you'll find it. Number 7. Mount Rushmore, South Dakota, USA. Mount Rushmore is one of the most iconic images in American history. The faces of 4 presidents carved into the granite of the Black Hills of South Dakota. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and Theodore Roosevelt, sculpted over 14 years between 1927 and 1941. It is reproduced on merchandise, in films, and in school textbooks across the country. Millions of Americans grow up believing it is something they must see before they die. When they actually get there, many wish they had stayed home. The monument requires a long drive through remote terrain to reach. It sits roughly 25 miles from the nearest town of Rapid City. The viewing area offers a single sightline to the carvings, which are smaller in person than virtually every visitor expects. The sculptures themselves stand around 18 meters tall, impressive by human standards, but visually underwhelming against the scale of the mountain behind them. There is little else to do once the photo is taken. Multiple travel publications have named Mount Rushmore the most disappointing tourist attraction in America, and visitor reviews consistently use words like anticlimactic and not worth the drive. The admission to the site is free, but parking costs $10 per vehicle and has drawn consistent complaints about poor value. The surrounding visitor center is modest, and the viewing experience is essentially static. A crowd of people standing at a railing looking at carved rock. One TripAdvisor reviewer wrote that a perfectly good mountain was ruined to make it. That may be a minority view, but the regret that many visitors feel after driving hours to stand at that railing for 20 minutes, that is very well documented. 6. Blue Lagoon, Iceland. The Blue Lagoon is Iceland's most famous tourist attraction, a geothermal spa set against a dramatic volcanic landscape about 40 minutes from Reykjavik. The water is a striking milky blue, heated naturally by volcanic activity to around 38 degrees Celsius. The photos are stunning. The reality, according to the thousands of visitors who have reviewed it, is frequently a letdown. The first problem is the crowds. The Blue Lagoon markets itself as a serene, otherworldly escape. In practice, it is one of the most visited attractions in Iceland, and the pools are consistently packed. Travelers have described floating less than a few feet from other visitors at all times, with clean photos of the lagoon essentially impossible without significant photoshopping. The facility sits directly adjacent to a geothermal power plant, which appears prominently in the background of any wide-angle photo, a detail entirely absent from the marketing materials. Ticket prices are steep, time slots are strictly enforced, and the booking system offers almost no flexibility. Visitors who miss their window forfeit the cost entirely. The second problem is what surrounds it. The lagoon is located in a lava field next to the Svartsengi power station. It is not a natural wonder in any traditional sense, but runoff water from the plant that turned out to be warm enough to bathe in. The mineral-heavy water can discolor hair if not carefully protected. Many visitors leave feeling they paid premium prices for an overcrowded pool next to an industrial facility, surrounded by other tourists, all trying to take the same impossible photo. 5. Trevi Fountain, Rome, Italy. The Trevi Fountain is one of the greatest Baroque masterpieces ever built, an 18th century sculptural achievement that took over 30 years to complete and sits at the junction of 3 ancient Roman aqueducts. It is also, according to the European Pickpocketing Index, the single worst location for tourist theft in all of Europe, with 1,000 pickpocketing mentions per million visitors. The fountain receives between 10,000 and 12,000 visitors every single day. At peak times, the square surrounding it is so packed that the city of Rome introduced mandatory queuing rules in 2024 to manage the crowds. Getting close enough to actually see the fountain properly requires working through a dense wall of people, selfie sticks, and souvenir vendors. The surrounding restaurants and shops are among the most aggressively tourist-priced in the city. A March 2025 study by Radical Storage found that nearly 25% of all Trevi Fountain reviews were negative, with crowds and mobility cited as the primary complaints. The fountain, when you finally reach it, is genuinely spectacular. That is not in dispute. What is in dispute is whether the experience of getting to it, the crowds, the queues, the pickpockets, the overpriced cafes, and the 2-minute window you get before being pushed aside by the next wave of visitors is worth the effort. For a growing number of tourists, the answer is no. Travelers increasingly report tossing a coin into the fountain, walking away, and wondering whether that's genuinely all there is to it. 4. Fisherman's Wharf, San Francisco, USA. Fisherman's Wharf sits on the northern waterfront of San Francisco and draws around 12 million visitors every year. It is consistently marketed as the heart of the city's identity. Fresh seafood, views of the bay, sea lions, and the spirit of old San Francisco. According to the Nomad 2025 global study, it is tied for the title of the worst tourist trap in the United States, with 1,000 TripAdvisor reviews using that exact phrase. The seafood restaurants along the wharf are a common source of complaint. Prices are significantly higher than comparable restaurants elsewhere in the city. and quality is frequently described as inconsistent or mediocre. The famous sourdough bowls and clam chowder exist at every stall, sold at a premium to visitors who don't realize the same food is available at better restaurants throughout the rest of San Francisco for less. The shops sell the same generic San Francisco merchandise found in souvenir stores across the country. Multiple reviewers describe the entire area as run down, dirty, and overcrowded, designed to extract money rather than deliver an experience. What keeps Fisherman's Wharf on every tourist itinerary is the sea lions at Pier 39, and most visitors agree they are the one genuinely worthwhile thing at the location. The sea lions arrived uninvited in 1990 and have stayed ever since, sunning themselves in large numbers on the docks. Everything else around them, the shops, the restaurants, the street performers, is, by most accounts, forgettable at best. San Francisco is a remarkable city with neighborhoods, food, and culture that most tourists miss entirely because they spent their time at the wharf. 3. Bali, Indonesia. Bali has been on every travel magazine's best of list for decades. The combination of ancient Hindu temples, lush rice terraces, surf beaches, and affordable luxury made it one of the most desirable destinations in Asia. In 2023, Bali welcomed 5.3 million international visitors, a number that increased by 22% through mid-2024. The island's infrastructure has not kept up. The beaches that made Bali famous are no longer what they were. Areas like Kuta and Seminyak, once beautiful, are now described by travel publications as litter-covered and overcrowded. The local waste management system cannot cope with the volume of visitors. In 2025, the Bali government introduced a tourist levy of around $10 per international visitor in an attempt to fund environmental restoration. The traffic in Denpasar and the surrounding tourist areas has become a genuine problem. Roads designed for a much smaller population are gridlocked for hours, and what should be a short trip between temples or beaches can consume most of a day. The cultural commodification is another concern raised by longtime visitors. What was once a genuinely immersive experience of Balinese Hindu culture has in many areas become a performance staged for tourists, ceremonies, offerings, and rituals repackaged as Instagram content. Travelers who visited Bali 10 or 15 years ago frequently describe returning and not recognizing the place. The Bali of the travel magazines still exists in pockets, usually requiring effort to find and willingness to move well away from the tourist zones. For the millions who go expecting the dream, the reality can be jarring. 2. Taj Mahal, Agra, India. The Taj Mahal is arguably the most beautiful building ever constructed. A 17th century marble mausoleum built by Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan in memory of his wife Mumtaz Mahal. It took over 20,000 workers more than 20 years to complete. Its scale, symmetry, and craftsmanship are unrivaled. The building itself exceeds expectations. The experience of visiting it rarely does. The Taj Mahal receives around 7 to 8 million visitors per year. On busy days, the site hosts tens of thousands of people simultaneously. Queues at the entrance can stretch for hours under the Indian heat. Aggressive hawkers and unofficial guides approach visitors from the moment they leave their vehicle. The surrounding city of Agra is one of the most pollution-heavy in India, regularly ranking among the worst for air quality, a problem that has visibly affected the white marble of the monument itself, causing discoloration that authorities have attempted to treat with clay packs. The area around the Taj is described by multiple sources as chaotic and deeply unpleasant. Many tourists describe the experience as exhausting and disorienting, arriving at one of the world's most sublime monuments and having it immediately undercut by pressure, crowds, and logistics. The view of the Taj itself is everything history promises. The hours of travel, the heat, the queuing, and the persistent approach of touts is something most visitors don't mention when they post the photo. But they remember it. For a large number of travelers, the Taj Mahal is the one place they can say they've been, that they're glad they've been, and that they never need to visit again. 1. Waikiki Beach, Honolulu, Hawaii, USA. Hawaii is one of the most aspirational travel destinations in the world. The images are familiar to everyone: volcanic mountains, clear blue water, tropical flowers, and the kind of warm, relaxed culture that feels like something from another world. Waikiki Beach, the narrow strip of sand in the heart of Honolulu, is where most tourists actually end up. And it is, by a wide margin, one of the most commonly cited travel disappointments in the United States. Waikiki is 2 miles of heavily developed urban beachfront. The beach itself is flanked on all sides by hotels, shopping malls, chain restaurants, and souvenir shops. The sand is genuine, the water is warm, and the sunsets are real. But the atmosphere is indistinguishable from dozens of other commercialized resort strips around the world. The Kalakaua Avenue Strip, the main tourist road behind the beach, hosts Louis Vuitton, Gucci, and Cheesecake Factory outlets side by side. A beer at a Waikiki bar costs 3 to 4 times what it would in the rest of the country. Many visitors spend their entire Hawaiian vacation within a 1-mile radius of their hotel and leave believing they've seen Hawaii. They haven't. The rest of Oahu and the neighboring islands contain the places that actually match the promise. The North Shore's surf breaks, the rainforest hikes of the Koolau Range, the sea turtle beaches of Laniakea, the cultural sites of Molokai. These are the places that longtime Hawaii visitors talk about. Waikiki is the version of Hawaii built for people who've never been told there's another version. What most tourists regret isn't visiting Hawaii. It's never leaving Waikiki long enough to find the real thing, and by the time they realize it, the flight home is already booked. Every year, millions of people spend their savings to visit the world's most famous places, and walk away wishing they hadn't. The gap between the photo and the reality is where the regret lives. Before you book your next trip, it might be worth asking who's selling you the dream and what they're not showing you. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more, did you know facts? Click on the video appearing on your screen now, and remember to hit the subscribe